And this picture is speaking volume to me. We realize what has been done across Africa through them. We know also through this little documentary that we're able to watch, we have huge figures invested by the African Development Bank in the transport sector across the African continent. If it is true that this continent is enlightening, hearing the president of sectoral experts will give us more insights. I suggest we have many experts on board on the stage here. We're going to give you an overview of the various sectors. We'll call in Mr. Ruzenge, who is responsible for energy, infrastructure, and services at the Private Sector Development Department at the JUNECA. Please give me a hand whilst joining us here.
Thank you so much. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I hope that it will be displayed. While that is being done, I want to thank the ADB on behalf of the Executive Secretary of ECA, Clava Gatete, for inviting us to this meeting. A couple of speakers already have spoken about the African continental free trade area. This morning, what I want to do is to look at the implications of the continental free trade area for demand of transport infrastructure and services. We know that the relationship between trade and transport is two-way. While transport can facilitate trade, trade can also provide investment opportunities for transport infrastructure and services. So we want to look this morning at the second dimension. How would the African continental free trade area, what investment opportunities it will provide for transport? What I'm going to present, and hopefully the PowerPoint will come up very soon, are the findings of our work that ECA did in 2020. The baseline was 2019, and the horizon is 2030. So now I do have the presentation on the screen. Could we move to the next slide, please? Okay, I see that I can control it myself. What you see on that slide are the projections from ECA research. We find out that the African continental free trade area, if we implement it, would result to about 40% increase in intra-African trade by 2045. And we see this increase across different sectors. Agri-food, we see an increase of about 41%. Services, about 39%, same with industry, 39%, a modest increase in mining, about 16%. But basically, if you take a deeper dive, what are the subsectors that we expect growth? Let me focus on services. We see that tourism and transport is going to experience significant growth as a result of the continental free trade area. In fact, we're estimating about 50% increase in transport services if the continental free trade area is implemented. Now, for industry, I just want to focus on the subsector of vehicles and transport equipment. We are seeing growth in that sector, and this, of course, is linked to transport. Again, we see growth in refined oil. That is, again, no surprise, because if we have more transport, we anticipate more use of oil. But we have to take this with a pinch of salt, because now of ongoing efforts to green our economy. So we're doing everything we can do, member states, international organizations, to cut down the use of refined oil. Now, these are the questions very quickly that we seek to answer. How will implementation of the continental free trade area affect demand for transport, infrastructure, and services? 2, what would be the demand for different modes of transport? What are the implications for investment in infrastructure development? We will see some figures. And finally, what would be the infrastructure and equipment needs for different transport modes? For instance, how many trucks would we need? How many aircraft would we need? How many rail wagons, maritime vessels to accommodate the anticipated increase in trade flows in Africa. Now, I will just go to, I'm not going to details of the research, but just the findings are going through the different modes of transport, starting with road. Just to say that in terms of infrastructure, we have just under 3 million kilometers of roads in Africa. This is quite small compared to the US, for instance, where you have over 6 million kilometers of road. Today, we know that we are transporting about 200 million tons of goods by road, and we are projecting this figure to move to about 400 million tons of goods if the continental free trade area is fully implemented. But these are the implications for equipment in terms of truck. And so if we fully implement the continental free trade area, we see that we will need over 2 million additional trucks between now and 2030. This is a lot of investment opportunities. A lot of that would be for bulk cargo, but we also see some demand for container cargo. But very quickly, perhaps I should explain the scenario that we look at. Scenario S1 is a scenario where we implement the continental free trade area, but we don't do anything about our current infrastructure. The second scenario we investigated is the scenario where we implement the free trade area, but we also implement our regional programs like PIDA, the Trans-African Highways, the regional projects of the regional economic community. So those are the two scenarios that I would like to focus here. And you could see the first three bars is the baseline. So that was the situation in 2019. So we needed just about 698,000 trucks. But scenario one, if we implement the free trade area, you will see that the demand by 2030 rises to about 1.8 million trucks for bulk cargo. And if you move to the right-hand side, it will rise to about 248,000 for container cargo, making altogether the demand of about 2 million trucks, which is a huge investment opportunity. Now, in terms of sub-regional demand, we're seeing that the bulk of that demand would be within the West African region. About 39% of these 2 million trucks we're talking about, the demand is here in West Africa. But also we see demands for trucks moving from West to Southern Africa, also from South into West Africa. In essence, this is the bilateral trade between regions that we are seeing. Now, moving quickly to rail, I think to say that Africa's railway is pretty much underdeveloped, it's old, in many cases dilapidated. Today it carries less than 1% of trade on the continent, about 0.3%. But we're seeing that if we implement the continental free trade area, this may move to about 7%. Not much, but that's significant. But in terms of demand for rail wagons, we are seeing over 150,000 new wagons demanded for by 2030 if the continental free trade area is implemented. This is huge opportunities for countries, I believe, like South Africa, that are interested in manufacturing rail wagons. Moving quickly to where we are seeing this demand, again, West Africa, we are seeing a huge demand. For the over 150,000 additional wagon, we are predicting 48% of this would be in West Africa, Southern Africa 19.6%, and within North Africa 11.5%. These are the regions really that you have relatively developed railways on the continent. Moving quickly to maritime transport, I think just to say that we don't say it enough, today more than 20%, about 22% of intra-African trade is already happening by maritime transport, and which is not surprising given that close to 40 African countries are maritime countries, and there's a huge potential, in fact, to see more intra-African trade by sea. And if we look at the regions that we are seeing significant demand for maritime transport for intra-African trade, we see 35% of this additional wagon in Northern Africa. We see some demand for maritime intra-African trade between North and East Africa, but also between North Africa and West Africa, and moving very quickly to air transport. And I've seen major air transport stakeholders in the room already. With what we are predicting is that if we fully implement the Continental Free Trade Area, by 2030, we are going to anticipate 250 additional cargo aircraft. This is huge investment opportunity as well. And this does not even include the additional aircraft that we would need if we fully implement the single African air transport market, and obviously the Yamoussoukro decision for the implementation for liberalizing air transport markets on the continent. And I think that I see the moderator coming towards me, signaling that I should move quickly. Within West Africa, we're going to see growth in demand for aircraft. Same with North Africa and West Africa, connection between those regions. And also within Southern Africa, we are expecting to see growth there. And I'm moving. This is just the cost. This is the last but one slide. In terms of cost, we think that we would need 360 billion US dollars investment to get those over 2 million trucks. For railways, we will need about 36 billion USD for those additional wagons. For airplanes, it's about 25 billion USD. And maybe I'll just end with some implications. And this is the last slide. Obviously, I hope I've demonstrated the huge investment requirements in transport. I didn't talk much about infrastructure, but we identified about 60,000 kilometers of critical links. These are links that, if nothing is done, will not be able to accommodate the anticipated increase in trade flows. And then investment opportunities in battery industry, no time to talk about that. But if we were to manufacture some of those 2 million trucks on the continent, there's opportunity for battery electric vehicles. And finally, let me end by saying that we could harness global partnerships. I think there's a global gateway. There's the FOCAC recently. One of the declarations was investment in 30 infrastructure projects. Our plea is that let's try to align these investments that are coming from out of the continent with our priorities here to support the AfCFTA. And let me stop there, and thank you for your attention.
Merci encore à vous, Monsieur Lizing.
Renewed thanks to Mr. Lizingwe for this detailed presentation. We sometimes talk about challenges, which we're going to do today in the transport sector, but we, as far as the region is concerned, we are encountering challenges, and the key challenge is to stick to time allotted to us. So I will ask you, those who are speaking, the speakers for this morning, to trying to take up the challenge of sticking to the 5 minutes allotted to you, because I know in this hall there are many people impatient to find out who's the next panel. So let's try to stick to time, please. Now, for the railway sector, I call on Dr. Louis Sekunda, the Technical Director for the Association of Railway Association of Central Africa, to join us on stage. We'll try to give you a hand while he's joining us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a warm welcome.
I see I have the advantage of height. Someone was talking about height earlier. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and allow me to recognize the excellencies and honorable ministers present in the House. And allow me also to request that I ride on the protocols that have been laid on this platform. My name is Luvinda Mfalo Sakanga, and I'm African. I am Zambian by birth. I have a Rwandese wife, so I have African children. My office is in Harare, and I basically coordinate railway transportation for the SADC region, and I liaise quite cogently with the Africa Union. And today, I'm representing the Southern Africa Railway Association and SADC to contribute to effective planning for railway transportation development facilitated by the Africa Development Bank. And hence I say I'm African. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum presents a very unique opportunity, and I decided not to present slides, but really to talk to you and basically pronounce what railway transport is. And the previous presenter did highlight some statistics, but then I want to give you some gist of narrative. What is railway? I'll begin by saying that the primary objective for railway is to provide a seamless, efficient, predictable, cost-effective, safe, environmentally friendly railway service which is responsive to market needs and provides access to major centers of population and also economic activity. That is a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen, but what's the importance of it? And really, as I leave this platform, I would want you to just carry three important things with you. Number one is with regard to our policymakers who are present here. I think for railway, we need to now change the narrative with regard to policy focus and approach. If railway is to be what it's meant to be, we need to shift our minds from the colonial railway which we inherited. And what do we mean? We had railway established for extraction of African product and also for importation of plant and equipment to enhance production of those commodities which would be extracted. The previous presenter pointed out one important policy pronouncement which all heads of state of Africa have assented to, which is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. In that agreement, we are saying we need intra-Africa trade. And now we need to look at railway economic viability, railway economic feasibility within the African space, and not looking at railway moving to the port, but railway moving between Lusaka and Harare, railway transportation moving between Tanzania and DRC. That is the connectivity we want to see, and we need to make it economically viable. We need to have railway responsive to industry. And therefore, we need to look at today our projected infrastructure demand of $400 billion in the next 20 years for the African continent. That's an average figure. This is for railway manufacturing. This is for railway construction. But then we need to now look at the second item, creating the ecosystem for railways. And that's the second point I want you to go with out of this conference, the railway ecosystem. What do we mean? Like you have it in agriculture. You need your fertile land. You need your seed. You need your human capital to till the land. You need equipment. For railway, currently, our manufacturing base is very weak. in some countries non-existent. You have railway companies and not railway sectors. For you to have a railway sector, you need manufacturing. For you to have your railway sector, you need universities, which have the research base to basically innovate and encourage development in the railway space. We have seen from the previous slide a projection of 200,000 wagons. Are they all going to be imported onto African soil? When a manufacturing plant for wagons costs less than $100 million, and we want to import $400 billion of railway construction, why not put up railway manufacturing hubs for locomotives? And the demand is there. It has been stressed. So strategic partnerships should be those for sustainable investment in railway. And railway cannot do it alone, hence the ecosystems of interfacing with agriculture. Hence the ecosystems for integrating with energy. In railway, currently we have the buzzword of saying, let's move to high-speed railway. And we have a plan for it, the Africa Integrated High-Speed Railway Project. But this needs power generation. We shouldn't have blackouts unnecessarily. We need to plan for this, and planning needs to be granular. We need to ensure that a railway sector master plan, our continental railway sector master plans, our regional railway sector master plans are strongly interfacing. This forum should be strongly interfacing with the energy sector, because high-speed railway without energy is not attainable. High-speed railway without manufacturing is not attainable. High-speed railway without universities, the human capital we need to run our railways, to maintain, is not sustainable. So if we are to accelerate infrastructure development, I think we need to change that narrative. The third point, which I would like you to go with, and which will be my last with respect to timekeeping, is that we should be very candid with the type of railway economic regulation we are adopting. And what do I mean? We have concessions, railway concessions. We have the traditional, if I may call it that, for Africa, vertical integration type of railway, where you have one company running the infrastructure, managing the infrastructure, and also running the trains. And then you have vertical separation, where you have the infrastructure manager and different operators. These are all very good railway economic regulatory practices. However, they all need certain fundamental elements. Those fundamental elements should provide for two interests. Number one, public interests. Public interests basically cater for government, and which is the people, you and me. And hence I said I'm African and I'm concerned. Number two is the private sector interests, which look at investment. It's the private sector interests which look at basically structuring incentives for subsidies and the different types of investment in the railway sector. So what do I mean now when I say it doesn't matter which railway economic regulatory regime you need to bring in, but all you need is to be cautious. Number one, you need to advise your policy, the way I structured it earlier. Number two, you need to ensure that railway market players, the customers, are provided for with rights. Service quality ensures rights for the railway industry, for all players. You need to ensure that you have a regulator, which ensures, a regulator will ensure your infrastructure is ready for the operators. The regulator will ensure There's arbitration for customers, for infrastructure managers and operators. But most importantly, with economic regulation in railways, you need to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you have the necessary human capital. This is what drives innovation. This is what drives the strength of the railway ecosystem. And for Africa to thrive, that FOCAC $50 billion, how I wish it would be pronounced to say for the railway, for Africa, we have $5 billion for the manufacturing sector. And I hope at the end of this forum, we'll have pragmatic steps to achieve that deliberate focus for continental railway development. Thank you very much.
Un grand merci.
Thank you to Dr. Lubia Akanga, who we're going to now call Mr. Sakanga the African. We have been able to take a look at the challenges of the railway sector. Now we're going to move to airlines. And we will have the Secretary General of the Association of African Airlines, who's going to share with us his perspectives.
Good evening to everyone, Honorable Minister, dear delegates. I'm also an African, and I take the challenge of a 5-minute challenge. Because we are in Ivory Coast, I will deliver my speech in French. Je remercie
I would like to thank the African Development Bank for the opportunity to be speaking at this forum on Africa on the move, accelerating sustainable development. How can we define airline connectivity? It is the facility of movement of people with very little stopovers at an affordable price with the satisfaction of the clients. In order to measure this connectivity, the African Association of Airlines created the connectivity and as a means of faster transport. It facilitates the relationship between government and citizens, between companies, between investments, and the flow of tourism. It is therefore vital for the integration, the economic integration and development of the continent. Unfortunately, in Africa, it is quite restrained. We represent about 3 continents compared to Europe, and we have more people than Europeans, but the activity in Europe is 11 times greater than what we have in Africa. And people in Africa traveling from one city to another have to go to Europe before going to another African city. What are the main factors of connectivity? It is important to note that if economic growth is a condition for connectivity, it is also essential to generate economic activity. It is linked to trade, to the development of business, for tourism, but we have conditions in our tourism sector that does not facilitate this connectivity. We have to look at the size of the demand in order to be able to sustain a good level of connectivity. The restrictions or the difficulties of visas between various countries that in the end have an impact on accessibility to airline transport. especially when you look at the GDP of countries. We therefore have many handicaps for connectivity, and airline companies also play a role in these difficulties. The systems have to be adapted to the users. How can the stakeholders help with connectivity? Governments have to put in place regulatory frameworks that facilitate connectivity and put the focus on new investors and making sure that there is enough capacity to meet the demand. We have to facilitate access to financing so that we can buy the equipment necessary for the operations. And we have to make efforts to reduce production costs and improve the networks. Airlines must invest in training in order to ensure the availability of personnel that is efficient over the next few years. I would like to indicate that the initiatives of the African Union and the AfCFTA and the free movement of people and goods will also promote connectivity. I would like to thank the AfDB for its support for these initiatives in airline transport. I would like to thank the bank for having organized this forum. The importance of airline connectivity calls on all the stakeholders to work together to take the appropriate measures in order to improve the situation in Africa. We need concerted action between governments and financial institutions and regulatory authorities, airlines, and the various airline services to participate in this effort. Thank you.
Et on va dire un merci particulier à Monsieur Berthet.
And we're going to say thank you to Mr. Berthet, who stuck to the 5 minutes that he had for his presentation. So you will have to make an effort to keep to time, as he did. He was very frank, very honest, especially when it comes to the challenges to better connectivity in Africa. It is difficult, but he underscored what we need to do in order to move forward. Now, we're going to look at road transport, and we're welcoming the Director General of Road Transport in Côte d'Ivoire. We give him the floor now.
Dr Mena Mansour.
Dr. Mena Mansour. I would like to salute you and say welcome to Abidjan at Côte d'Ivoire. I will talk about the management system of road transport. Firstly, we need to define what we mean by management. Theoretically speaking, management is a set of elements that are interdependent, that are regulated by laws, and that play specific functions within these elements. And by management, we have decision makers who have the information they need in order to be able to act in a place at a specific time. What are the characteristics of a management system? The clear formulation of a policy starts with the definition of the objectives in the short, medium, and long term based on the needs and the means that are available. And from a physical point of view and an economic point of view, the implementation of a particular program. A control based on indicators to appreciate the quality of the actions that are undertaken. And in order to achieve these objectives and reorient these objectives, you need to have all these elements in the system. Now, management systems try to answer three main questions. Firstly, how can you characterize at a given time the quality of service that is offered by a company? Secondly, what is the evolution based on the policy in terms of the maintenance of the system? And what is the strategy of the network? How can we determine the annual program of works? In other words, a management system is before everything a system that is put in place to resolve specific issues. And there is no magical wand when it comes to management system. So what are the real problems that need to be resolved in the case of Côte d'Ivoire today? We can identify a number of problems. The first problem is the building of roads and the choice of the materials that is being used, and the weakness of numbers of companies that are equipped with the material that is required, and the staff that are qualified to carry out the works, and of course the financial means. And this financial problem shows that the financial needs are always superior to what is available. So you need to make decisions before you can program the work that needs to be done. The management system is therefore support to the decision makers by providing them the directions that are possible given the financial means that are available. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous, Monsieur Messou.
Thank you, Mr. Messou. Last speaker on the subsectors of transport for the navigable. So Mr. Wadiku will talk to us about the waterways.
Your Excellencies, permit me once again to stand on existing protocols. I am the Secretary General of the Maritime Organization for West and Central Africa, a 49-year organization based here in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and founded by the heads of states and governments of the 25 countries of West and Central Africa. So add that 20 of these countries are coastal and 5 of them are landlocked countries, which speaks to the importance of inland waterways in the transportation modes of these member countries. Inland waterways transport in Africa plays a significant role in connecting remote areas and supporting trade and mobility across various regions, particularly where road and rail networks are underdeveloped. However, the state of inland waterway transport varies significantly across the continent, and several challenges limit its potentials. Let me highlight key inland waterway systems on the continent, one of which is the Congo River Basin. The Congo River Basin is Africa's second largest river and is central to transport in the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring countries. It serves as a major transport route for goods and people, particularly in areas where road infrastructure is poor. Secondly, we have the Nile River. The Nile River is Africa's longest river and provides a key transport route for countries like Egypt, Sudan, and Uganda. Egypt, in particular, utilizes the Nile extensively for transport and commerce. Lake Victoria, shared by Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, Lake Victoria serves as a critical inland waterway for regional transport and trade in that sub-region. The Zambezi River. The Zambezi River runs through several countries in southern Africa, including Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. It is used for both passenger and cargo transport, but faces challenges due to its natural features like rapids and waterfalls. Lake Tanganyika and Malawi. Both lakes are important transport routes in East Africa. Lake Tanganyika in particular serves Burundi, Tanzania, Zambia, and the DRC. These water infrastructures face several challenges and deficiencies. Many inland waterways in Africa suffer from a lack of infrastructure, such as modern ports, navigational aids, and properly maintained vessels. Limited investments in these areas have hindered the efficiency and safety of inland waterways transport systems. Environmental factors. Several variations in water levels, particularly in rivers, can make navigation unpredictable and hazardous. For example, during the dry season, some waterways become impassable due to water levels, while others face flooding during the rainy season. There are also safety concerns. Many vessels used for inland waterway transport are outdated and poorly maintained, leading to frequent accidents. Safety regulations are often weak or poorly enforced, which exacerbates the risk for passengers and cargo. Limited connectivity. Inland waterways often operate in isolation from other transport networks like roads and rail, leading to inefficiencies in the movements of goods and people, and therefore improving intermodal transport is essential to fully harnessing the potentials of waterway systems on the continent. Political and institutional barriers. The lack of coordinated policies across borders, particularly in regions with shared waterways, creates barriers to the development of efficient inland waterway transport systems. Regional cooperation is often needed to address shared challenges like pollution control, navigational rights, and infrastructure developments. Opportunities for improvement. Inland waterways presents a relatively low-cost and environmentally friendly alternative to road and rail transport, and therefore enhancing this sector could reduce congestion on roads, lower transport costs, and promote regional integration. Investment in infrastructure, safety measures, and regional cooperation is crucial for realizing these benefits. What are the future prospects for inland waterways on the continent? The African Development Bank, through a forum as we're having today, and other international agencies have recognized the potential of inland waterways and are advocating for more investment in modernizing infrastructure. Public-private partnerships could also be leveraged to upgrade ports, vessels, and navigational aids. Sustainability initiatives on inland waterways can also support Africa's climate goals by offering a greener alternative to road transport, which is often more carbon-intensive. Regional cooperation is therefore needed between countries sharing water resources as a key to improving the management and utilization of inland waterways. This includes harmonizing policies and regulations, as well as investing in joint infrastructure and projects. Let me end these brief remarks by congratulating the Africa Development Bank for convening this forum to discuss the various modes of improving transport systems on the continent. Because for me, inland waterways hold significant potential, but realizing this potential will require concerted efforts to overcoming existing challenges related to infrastructure, safety, and regional cooperation. I thank you all.
Merci encore à...
Thank you, Mr. Adaliku. You had the opportunity this morning to watch an instructive video. You assisted or took part in a detailed presentation via the different speakers. And so right now we're going to have a discussion. With all of this in mind, we're going to undergo the first discussion. And it will be a unique opportunity to actually discuss the state of connectivity in Africa. And to this effect, I ask you to welcome His Excellency Jean-Jacques Bouillard, Minister of Development from Congo. We'd also like you to welcome Mr. Eric Gengewa, Minister from the African Union Commission. I want to mention that he's representing Mr. Amani Abu Zaid. That's why you have a different name. Would also like to welcome Yulisa Kani, Commercial Director for Transnet. Please warmly welcome them to the stage. We need to encourage the people who will talk about transport in the African continent. I'll call Flori Okonje from the Central Transport Corridor to join us. And lastly, Mr. Dieudonné Dukundane, Minister of Social Housing and Development from Burundi.
La discussion en panel sera organisée.
The panel discussion will be organized in 3 parts. The first part will give an overview of connectivity of the initial initiatives, and then we will talk about challenges, connectivity challenges. And the third part, if we have the time, we'll talk about future perspectives and collaboration. So, Mr. Minister Jean-Jacques Bouillard, my microphone isn't placed properly for me to address you, but I would still proceed. Mr. Minister, we would have the discussion with yourselves and talk about regional integration. We'll talk about Congo. You're representing that country. What are the main priorities for Congo to improve cross-border connectivity in Central Africa? Thank you. I would also ensure that the microphone is in its place. Thank you. Let me start by saying that regional integration and is very important in implementing the free trade zone, and how can we do this physically in neighboring countries? If we can't do that, then it would only be a slogan. We have a lot of initiatives. Africa has a wide free trade zone, and this needs to be operational. And for this to be operational, we need physical integration amongst countries with one's neighbors. And so we need to identify priorities, and I guess the priorities for Congo is the same for countries. The vice president from the bank earlier on mentioned, and I understand my brother from Congo was mentioned. So this is about integration. And it's literally the same country. So as part of our policies, we are trying to take connectivity as one of our priorities, linking the political and economic capitals to other neighboring countries. And so from the economic capital Point Noir, we can, by road, go to Angola, Cabinda in Angola. From the capital, Brazzaville, and the economic capital, via roads, we can get to Gabon. And through the same means, through the same routes, we can get to Cameroon. I mean, efforts have been made, but it's still not enough. As like you know, we have in the neighborhood, we're trying to make sure that we have a development corridor in that region. The Tripoli window going from Brazzaville, Bangui, and also right down to Windhoek. And so the African, in order to overcome these challenges, we have assistance from the African Development Bank, and we're trying to build a road to Bangui in Central African Republic. And also, we're trying to harness the potential of the Congo River, that is Brazzaville and Kinshasa. And so the vice president of the bank put us together, and we have a flagship project that we're working on, and the African Development Bank has put in place a concession which would help us build a bridge and railway between Brazzaville and Kinshasa. These are some of the initial priorities. There's also facilitating trade between between countries of the region, and this initiative was put in place by ECAS. And activities have been going on between Cameroon and Congo, and we are hoping that we would roll this out to other borders in order to improve discussions on trade. We also have an economic and financial community, CEMAC, where regulation is the same, and we're hoping to adopt regulation that would facilitate trade. There's other neighboring countries that are not part of ECAS, but we need to harmonize regulations with them in order to encourage trade. And so putting in place all the necessary dispositions, we're hoping that discussions would be fruitful and the free trade zone would be properly implemented. Thank you, Mr. Minister. So you're talking about initiatives and efforts made. So are you happy with the state of connectivity in Congo and the efforts undertaken by yourselves? There's more to be done. And why are you not doing so? Like I said, the bank is better placed to tell us, because it is the African Development Bank that is boosting the continent's development. And we know that the stumbling block as far as infrastructure is concerned in Africa is costs, exorbitant costs. And we know that with private initiatives and the assistance of the bank, public-private partnerships and other innovative finance mechanisms, we can build these infrastructures that are quite costly. And in the Central African zone, if it is favorable to agriculture, because we have 9 months out of the 12 where we have rainfall, and so we'd have just 3 months to build roads, and that is a major handicap. And in an area where we greatly protect the environment, and it is a forest zone, and so this just goes to show that the costs are very high. But hopefully, with mechanisms that will be put in place by the bank and other institutions, we would be able to speed up or fast track activities, because for development. So we need to fast track development, fast track connectivity, and this can only happen if we bring together or harness our efforts in order to have resources. So, ladies and gentlemen, and take note that the will is there, and what the minister is underscoring is that there's an issue with accessing funds to promote interconnectivity as well as climatic changes. And now I'll turn to you, Eric. If French is okay, that's fine. Now, in a more continental perspective, what does the African Union put in place as a strategy to improve infrastructure in the energy sector to boost connectivity in the African continent? Let me respond in English.
Thank you very much. First of all, I wanted to thank the African Development Bank on behalf of Her Excellency Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, for inviting us. I'm honored to be here to represent the African Union Commission. First of all, I wanted to mention that the intervention and the project done by the African Union Commission is in line with what we have had before this panel. We've had various partners we are working with. The first one is the UNECA supporting the single African air transport market particularly. And also we have the African Airlines Association. So one of the initiative and the program that the African Union Commission is leading is the implementation of the single African air transport market. And in particular, I can say that since its launch in 2018, it has an agency, African Civil Aviation Commission, which is an executing agency for the SATAM. The AFCAC, the AUC, and obviously the African Development Bank, we have been working together to accelerate this initiative. 37 African states have joined. These states are constituting around 89% of intra-Africa traffic. And this particular program is supporting particularly the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The ECA study highlighted the need in terms of the demand in air transport. So we can achieve this through the SATAM. The AFCAC launched what we call air shows in different countries, because we realized that all the 37 and 55 African states cannot realize the SATAM at the same time. So the AFCAC got an initiative called the SATAM Pilot Implementation Project, which last year actually supported to have 60 new routes, intra-African new routes. Among those new routes, we have what we call freedom traffic routes, whereby you can have direct connection between the cities, but airlines can be able to come from one city to another and pick passengers to another city. The second initiative under railway sector, I think you have heard Mr. Lubinga from SARA highlighted the African Integrated Railway Network. This is another flagship project of the African Union Commission, which actually has 2 phases. One phase which has 13 pilot projects, which we are expected to be completed by 2033. These projects, currently 8 of the 13 projects have advanced from feasibility to construction phases. And this is going to boost intra-Africa connectivity and support the FCFTA. And in particular, under this initiative, the AUC also developed what we call a railway source book in collaboration with GIZ. This railway source book is like a tool or a guideline to support railway development, planning, design, and maintenance and construction in Africa. The third initiative, I can say, is a decarbonization of transport. Under this initiative, AUC is leading initiative under both Trans-Africa Highway Network, which is a network of 10 highway links across Africa. And under this one, we also have the decarbonization through bringing public transport and mass transportation in urban settings. And the last one, as an initiative, I can say, is that we also work very closely with the African Development Bank to develop under the single African air transport market. The AfDB is supporting AFCAC in aviation safety with a project of 5 years. But we are also working in terms of the aviation infrastructure gap analysis. We are working with AfDB to develop bankable projects that are going to close aviation infrastructure gaps in Africa, but also establish a seamless airspace and air navigation architecture. Those are the few initiatives, but I also, as the last one, I can say that we also have a very, very important initiative to harmonize regulations under road transport. The minister was talking about harmonization at regional level. So we are working with all the regs to establish a more safe and integrated and efficient road transport regulatory framework by harmonizing transport regulations so that you can have transport operators moving from one country to another with the same regulations, with same standards, and be able to have these smart and efficient transport corridors. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, effectivement.
Thank you for this overview. Yeah, very often we ask questions and we always ask, what does the African Union do? And now we have an idea, a clearer idea of what is done by way of projects. So we will give you an opportunity during the next set of discussions. And so I'll ask you, Madam Yolisa Kani.
Is Transnet playing in fostering multimodal transport systems across Africa to enhance connectivity between rail, road, and ports?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to say thank you very much to the AfDB for the invitation. It's indeed a pleasure and honor.
Sorry, I invite you to get closer to the microphone so that the audience can have the pleasure to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little better, but if you get it closer, yes, you can bring the microphone closer to your mouth.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I'm really grateful to be representing African women on this platform. I can see there's not many of us. But to get to the question, I mean, Transnet is a state-owned freight and logistics company. Thank you so much. We run on a rail net. It's worse.
Est-ce qu'il est allumé? Is the microphone on? Because you have a power button.
Thank you.
That can help.
Okay. All right. Transnet is a state-owned freight and logistics company. To Lubinda's point, we are still vertically integrated, but we're in the process of unbundling ourselves, separating our freight operating company, rail operating company from the infrastructure manager. We are operating over 22,000 kilometers of a rail network. We have 8 commercial ports and 16 port terminals. We have an approved Africa strategy that was approved by our board. And the reason I say this is that we see ourselves as a very important and very integral part of regional integration as well as intra-Africa trade. It's not easy because the challenges that you face in terms of an old infrastructure network, we have the same challenges. The shortages you have on rolling stock, we have those challenges as well. However, the reason we think that we are an integral part of this is that the connection between the hinterland and our ports is enabled by these 22,000 kilometers of the railway network that I'm referring to. But most importantly, what I'd like to highlight is that it is not just the sheer volume and the size of the company itself that makes us an integral part of intra-Africa trade. It is the expertise that we have, the human resources that we have, and the experience that sits in the 50,000 odd human resource capacity that we have. And we've already gotten into relationships with our counterparts. I'll give you an example. We've signed a joint development agreement with the Botswana Rail. We've just finished the feasibility study of the Mamabula-Lipalala line. This is a 110-kilometer railway line that will link the mines in Botswana to the ports in South Africa. And the importance of this is unlocking that capacity in Botswana and also the socio-economic benefit that will come for both countries. This is just but one of the many examples I can cite. On the port side, I'm sure you've read about the infamous court case that we are going through on DCT Pier 2. This is one of our biggest port terminals in the Port of Durban. We went out to look for a strategic private sector partner. It's currently being challenged, but we would like to enable the capacity within that terminal. It has a nameplate capacity of 2 million TEUs. We're doing slightly under that, and we think that by leveraging and crowding in public sector funding, that will then enable us to increase on our operational efficiencies, amongst other things.
Thank you very much. Merci effectivement d'avoir.
Thank you very much indeed for highlighting the importance of human resources. It's just true that when talking about the infrastructure, we lay emphasis on transportation, but we do need human resources. Very quickly, there's a panel member who could not be here today. We refer to the fact that there's no gender balance on the rostrum. One was not able to come. However, to strike a balance, she sent us a small video message to contribute to the discussion. Mrs.
Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, good morning to all of you. Let me from the outset express the recognition of the International Road Federation to the African Development Bank for the trust and the true spirit of collaboration, which have been the distinctive mark of our successful collaboration over the past 7 decades. Our federation, which has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, and which has also UN ECOSOC status since 1951, hit indeed last year a major milestone with the celebration of its 75th anniversary. And we look forward to continuing to build successful partnerships to deliver, as our president likes to call them, in the African continent, hand in hand with all of you. This week, the ITS international community is meeting in Dubai, and we have been discussing exactly bottlenecks to the deployment of cutting-edge technology and innovation in the transport sector, but also how through the technology we can better integrate sustainability at the moment when we develop a project. And as a federation, we have actually we have highlighted in particular 2 challenges, but also 2 opportunities. Amongst the challenges, we have mentioned the lack of institutional capacity to plan and deliver change at the pace that is needed. And so the consequential need for all of us to work and develop new systems, processes, and skilled professionals. The second challenge is the inadequacy of traditional funding and financing instruments, which have not been designed to address high risk and uncertain investments required, for example, to decarbonize the transport sector. On the other side of the opportunities, I mentioned 2. the first one is the adoption of new technologies and innovation. And the second one is, of course, digitalization. We have today the tools that can deliver significant results and impact, not tomorrow, but now. And our industry has made really strides in all these sub-segments, and we are in the position to deliver innovation, not just in the way we operate transport infrastructure, but directly upstream in the way we think, in the way we design, and in the way we deliver infrastructure. The introduction of these digital tools and artificial intelligence into a sector like the road infrastructure sector has been a really complete game changer for our industry, allowing us to instill efficiency and generate savings, both in terms of costs, in terms of emissions, in terms of natural resources, and to a point where we are in the position to reinvest those savings to support other fundamental work and other fundamental needs in the sector. And as an example, the partnership between ORIS and UNIDO that we are supporting in the Ivory Coast, in fact, is an outstanding example of the kind of change and innovation that we can deliver. Through the use of ORIS digital platform and on road projects, but also on the upgrades, we are able to generate savings that we can invest to support rural roads via the Roads for People Fund. On the other side, and let's not forget, building knowledge, building capacity, and also true understanding around these issues is fundamental. And so is coordination and partnerships. And in line with this belief, we have launched an IRF Innovation Committee to, in fact, nurture, facilitate, and harvest new ideas and solutions. And please, you're all welcome to join this effort and to contribute. I want to mention also another great example of partnerships to deliver, the 10-step project for safer road infrastructure that we implemented in Tanzania in partnership with the authorities and other international and local stakeholders. It's a project that won the last year the Prince Michael Award, and is an example of what really partnerships can deliver. It's a pioneering pilot project that was under the leadership of UNECA, and that has set as an example for the entire region, and an example which is now being followed in other countries. First of all, in Senegal, who's also implementing a 10-step project right now, and also in other African countries and beyond. And you'll be able to hear about all this and much more at the IRF World Congress that we will be hosting in Istanbul, Turkey, on 15 to 18 of October 2024. Beside the rich technical program, we are also hosting a closed ministerial meeting on the first day of the conference, on the 15th of October. The theme is decarbonization and resilience for resilient societies and economies. And all of you ministers and dignitaries have already received a personal letter of invitation by our host, the Turkish Minister of Transport, and we look forward to welcoming you all in Istanbul. Know as well, in conclusion, that two of our IRF board members are present in Abidjan with you, Mr. Ali Pinge, the CEO of Namibia Road Fund, and Mr. Joseph Hole from Tanzania. Please reach out to them to learn more about the Congress or visit the Congress website, irf2024.irfofficial.org. And thank you, and see you all in Istanbul. Good continuation. Thank you.
Camarayo, for your contribution. She raised some very exciting issues like the paradoxical situation facing Africa. As we said earlier on, we have some very old infrastructure dating back to the colonial era. At the same time, we're supposed to turn to AI and digital tools. It's not that easy. Now, Mr. Kunje, I'll turn to you for the first question.
Improve transport efficiency and reduce costs for landlocked, example, countries in East and Central Africa.
Merci beaucoup, madame. Je vais vous faire...
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to speak French since I'm in Abidjan. Thank you very much indeed. First of all, the Central Corridor is a 7-member institution presented by Burundi, Mr. Kurumbande, who was before me in that position. He's now representing his country. Then you have DRC, Rwanda, you've got Republic of Tanzania, you've got Uganda and Tanzania, 7 members. As an intergovernmental institution, we're in charge of facilitating transportation from the Dar es Salaam harbor to the member countries. So in practical terms, we try to set up multimodal transportation, and we play to get infrastructure that is at the required level, i.e. modern. This applies to all modes, air, roads, etc. In addition to that, and to have all the modes well rehabilitated, we support all the member countries as regards transportation projects. We've got a tripartite project, which is a pioneering project, but also a flagship for us. And for the AfDB, the AfDB is supporting the financing of this project. We coordinate this project in the 3 countries, not only for the railroad between Burundi, Tanzania, and DRC for the first section, and feasibility study for the second section, but we're scheduling the same thing for the other members of the Central Corridor. Demand is pretty high by our member countries. For instance, Rwanda, Uganda wants a railway, and Tanzania as well. Therefore, we are at the center of planning with the government, but we're just coordinating things. It is a regional project, therefore you do need an intermediary between various governments in order to make things easy. You've got a lot of barriers, language, etc. And if you don't have an intermediary, this could indeed slow down integration projects in the region. Apart from the Kasamasan railway project that we are coordinating for our various countries and funded by the AfDB, we're pleased to tell you that all the infrastructure has not been abandoned. For instance, 2 countries, the United Republic of Tanzania and the Republic of Zambia, that have just signed an agreement with China for the rehabilitation of the Tanzania Ugandan Railway Corporation. So we try to ensure that old infrastructure is rehabilitated. I mean, roads, railroads, airports, and inland ports, and we're promoting also the development of new projects to keep abreast of the modern world. And the gauge should protect the environment, should be green, and also should be very fast, and this ensures that we reduce the transportation cost by 40%, and the time to move for people and cargoes. And also, if I take my train in Tanzania to go to Burundi, it's very fast. There's no obstacles, and there are no tariff barriers. When you take the train, you won't stop until you get to your destination, but you take the road, you will face some checkpoints for safety and security reasons. This is what we're doing at our level to ensure that traffic is fluid for trade, and trade generates opportunity for transportation. Thank you very much, Robert, for raising this. But I chose to say that transport bears trade, and trade bears the economy, and economy bears the growth of a country. For those who are not aware, this central corridor saddles ICAS, COMESA, and SADC. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you indeed. All those who travel by road are always scary to have to go through a checkpoint. Mr. Kondane, sorry if I mispronounced your name. We talk about the integration, the development, thanks to Minister Boya. What are the main priorities of Burundi? We're going to talk about East Africa, to talk about transport, trade through infrastructure. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Ivory Coast, for the very warm welcome, and thank you, the African Development Bank, for inviting us and for the continuing growing partnership. I'm Dieudonné Dukundane, the Minister for Infrastructure from Burundi. Madam, if that question was put to me 2 years back, I would have certainly come up with a different narrative. What was there 2 years back? I was here in Abidjan. His Excellency the Vice President and his team, they know we were still advocating. We were still kind of convincing of the need for Burundi, for Africa to have SGR, railway projects. The reason was simple, and I think we should be putting things as they are. If someone has a container in Harare, Zimbabwe, and they want this box to be in N'Djamena, Chad, what ways of transport could make this possible? Is it by sea? Maybe it will take some 3-4 months. Is it by road? I don't know how many times you would need to change the tires to get your container from Botswana up to N'Djamena, Tripoli, and the like. Whether we want it or not, railway is the only game changer if we are to go for the Continental Free Trade Agreement full implementation. Now, I'm happy to be back in Abidjan 2 years later with a different story, different narrative, because as we are speaking, we are gearing up to implement, to launch this very first railway project funded by the African Development Bank. Congratulations and thank you for the bank. Secondly, when we go on our marketplaces, what are the products that we see there from China, India, and the like? So, and I think brothers and sisters who are gathering here, I wish if God allows us to be alive in the next forum, I would wish to be sitting beside my colleague from Namibia by some samples of products from Namibia and vice versa. Secondly, for Burundi to have a railway, my colleague from Central Corridor has said it, that is the only way to change the narrative and the story on the business side, because we are a country that is located at 1,500 kilometers from the seaport. A return trip makes 3,000 kilometers. How would a country be competitive on international marketplaces when we are moving a box of 20 tons over a distance of 3,000 kilometers? It's not possible. And from the assessment that we have is that once this SGR will be in place, we will save nearly $100 for each ton transported. If you have got a cargo of 1 million ton, it means that you will save nearly $100 million every year. Over 10 years, this is $1 billion US. Actually, when we are, traveling here and there looking for this money, we are burning this money by using non-efficient modes of transport. So, and I believe countries really need to think deep. Of course, low-hanging fruits are needed, short-term solutions are needed, but we should be thinking sustainable solutions, and the railway is the only solution that will make it possible. Now, for this to happen, my plea, and I've been exchanging this with some colleagues from the bank and elsewhere, is that we need some kind of continental high-level strategic championship strategies. A railway can't just come like that because it requires huge funding and huge structural transformation. In the road sector, it is easier. A company that sells trucks, a company that sells fuel, it is easy, and we have a lot of people around with a lot of benefit. But for the railway, we need the people with this deep mindset, this understanding, this readiness to be a champion. Look across the continent. Wherever we are seeing some development in the railway, behind there is a man, there is a woman who is a champion. And I believe, unless we come up with this strategy, find people, we do have them in the room across the continent, who can really play this lead role. This is very important, and I think what we went through as Burundi, we are ready to share this with the rest of the continent, and I'm very happy to be back in Abidjan telling the story that in the next 2 or 3 months, groundbreaking will be taking place, and congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. C'est intéressant parce que
This is interesting because I'm under the feeling that we have 2 different positions in this matter.
On a entendu le ministre le dire.
We heard the minister say that the railway is the only game changer, which means in French that the only way we can change things will be through the railway networks. After all, Minister Buya, you talked about road development in Congo. Before asking you the next question, I would like to know if for you two, railways is the only game changer. Thank you. The truth be told, the development of the continent must be based on the opportunities that we have. So the multimodal nature of infrastructure is the only way. I'll give you a simple example. Today, if we use, well, we can say that we can use the digital and the maximum optimal management of the infrastructure that we have. Railway, well, when states and institutions can support states to build railways, well, this would be a mass transport, and that settles lots of issues. Today, the opportunity is that there are states that have natural ways. Well, I'm talking about the natural waterways. Well, the waterways are given by God. The rivers have been there from forever. In Europe, there's a transport that is done continuously up until today, and we can make up this mass transport. However, we don't use this enough. The effort that we need to do is to maintain those waterways to make them usable. An example that I can use, let's say you are in Mombasa and you have goods that you want to take to one of the countries of Central Africa. Let's say in the west part of Congo, of the DRC, for instance. What should you do? Well, you'll take the boat to circumvent the entire continent of the southern part to bring the goods either to Pointe Noire port or to Luanda port. And yet, if we try to develop the railway inclusively, and then all the transport modes, that's from Mombasa to Nairobi, probably we could use railways, and from Nairobi to Kampala, using the roads. But if from Kampala we can get to Kisangani in DRC, certainly we'll use the roads. And there we will have a waterway on the Congo River that takes you directly to Brazzaville and to Kinshasa, naturally. So what is important is that we should coalesce the multimodal features that we have as opportunities. And by doing this, we will further create wealth, and we will be moving towards what we can refer to or what we can envisage, that is to create high standard railways and to make them compatible from the north to the south and from the east to the west. But this is a gigantic development project, and where each person can make a contribution. But naturally, the natural ways are possible. This is an opportunity that can lead us to the acceleration of our development. So you are more for natural ways. Mr. Minister, well, I had a question concerning new technologies, the public-private partnerships that you have been putting in place. Now, just a few words, Honorable Minister, on this way of modernizing transport infrastructure and ensuring their sustainability. Do you do this on a daily basis? Are these initiatives that you've been putting in place in order to avoid this problem of financial resources? Well, you must start by saying that the opportunity of introducing new technologies in the transport system is extraordinary progress that has been made, because it makes it possible to optimize trade and to make all platforms compatible and all the transport modes compatible. So we should lay emphasis also on the sensitization, training, that's on awareness raising, because this transport system is not always appreciated at its real worth. So we should further train people and raise the awareness of people. And the more we know how to build a road, to build a railway, this is an important cost. By the way, the bank has said so. That is more than $100 billion are needed to build this infrastructure. And that is where we therefore can work on other types of financing mechanisms that are innovative. Insofar as our country is concerned, we've put in place, we have adopted a law on the PPPs that will enable the private sector to enter the sector and to boost development. And we think that this is the best progress that we have made. Today, Africa, well, if things are seen holistically, probably there's a lot of money in the continent, but we'll need to create the opportunities for those who have their resource to integrate or mainstream development projects. I appreciated a speaker who was talking about the railway by saying that we'll need to delink the putting in place of infrastructure as such and the management and use of railways in order to enable more persons intervening in the sector, like roads. So these are things that can be put in place, but we will need a proper study, because generally those who build are those who manage, and they prevent others to evolve. Whereas this is a platform that can be used as a transport platform, and each user could therefore develop these things. And this is where the importance of the digital feature comes in. It's in optimizing such investments. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Eric Tangagarwa, you're going to talk about the solutions, that is of the PIDA program in Africa, the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. How do you use it to solve the problem of connectivity, in particular as concerns landlocked countries?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say that the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa is another initiative of the African Union, but in particular, this one we work with the African Union Development Agency, AfDB, in terms of mobilizing the funding and also putting together all the private sector to be able to implement the priority projects. We are currently at the second phase of this program. The first phase was from 2012 to 2020. We are in the second phase from 2021 to 2030 with 69 priority projects. Under these 69 priority projects, we have almost 60% under transport sector. So this shows that the continent, in terms of connectivity, has seen under the PIDA framework that connectivity is very key. But connectivity cannot work without the other sectors. So the PIDA program has transport, ICT, energy, and also transboundary water. So under the African Union Commission, this PIDA is organized with different stakeholders. We have a PIDA steering committee, and this is composed mainly by the AfDB and also the African Development Bank, the AUC, but also regional economic communities. But most importantly to your question is that the corridor institutions. So the PIDA approach is mainly based on a corridor approach, because this also responds to your earlier question to the minister, that how can we ensure that not only railway is prioritized. So there is a transport corridor approach. Under this PIDA steering committee, we have also corridor management institutions like Central Corridor Authority and other corridor institutions. So the way these countries are taken into priority is that the whole PIDA process is that the priority projects are discussed at the regional economic communities level, and then under the transport, the corridor institution, management institutions, and these projects are taken to the continental level as priority projects. So there is a screening process which is led by AfDB in terms of determining which projects are going to be with a bigger impact, regional impact, and also continental impact. And also this landlocked country is another key criteria to be able to ensure connectivity. So we can see there are various projects. It can be airports, can be ports, smart and green ports. That, on this one, I come to the idea of digitalization of ports, for example, for efficiency. So those are priority projects that come under PIDA framework. And again, for financing, AfDB and also African Development Bank are playing a key role in terms of the preparation, because there is a major challenge in terms of preparing this project to bankability. Because before you get financing, they have to be prepared for bankability, and also the criteria of climate resilient infrastructure comes into place into the selection process.
And how does AfDB helps you doing that?
So the African Development Bank creates different facilities in terms of assisting countries to ensure preparation of projects. So one of them was the NEPAD IPPF facility, which actually assisted major projects under the PIDA framework. The example I can give is that in the Eastern African region, in the EAC region, various multimodal transport projects. These are projects which link 3 to 4 countries. So the countries could develop their terms of reference for the project, the feasibility and everything, and then the NEPAD IPPS fund was used to support the countries now to to prepare them for bankability. And then after that, the bank does not stop as well. They also continue to the next phases of development, including construction, and even up to the stage of operation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Effectivement, on voit que la banque est...
Now we see that the African Development Bank is present at each stage and makes it and facilitates the achievement of set objectives. Mr. Desiree Sakane.
Bottlenecks currently hindering seamless connectivity across Africa, and how, especially Transnet, is addressing these challenges in both the short and also the long term.
Yeah. Look, it's a question that is very dear to my heart, and I'll speak with absolute honesty. The decisions that are made sometimes at a government level, I don't think the repercussions and the ramifications of those are well thought through. And I'll tell you why I say this, and I say it as a matter of fact. In 1986, I was in primary. A decision was taken to scale down on railway maintenance and sweat the assets. At the same time, a decision was taken to liberalize road freight. And today, we're living the ramifications of that decision. Our rail network is suffering. It's buckling under the pressure. If we were to rehabilitate it to its nameplate, we would need 50 billion in the next 5 years. The coal line in and of itself needs a 12 billion funding. The iron ore needs 12 billion funding. We are a state-owned entity, what we call a Schedule 2, so we don't get funding from the government. We raise our own funding, and thanks AfDB for coming to the party. But the point I'm trying to make is that you cannot scale down on, you can scale down on anything else but maintenance, because ultimately it catches up with you. So how do we get ourselves out of this mess? So as I've indicated, that we have a rail policy reform that has been approved by government that will see a vertical separation of Transnet. We're in the process of establishing the infrastructure manager, and then our rail operating company will then operate on the line like any other private sector. And it's competition that we actually don't have a problem with. But having made an assessment of how much it would cost to access the line, it is about 19 cents per ton, per kilometer. And that has gotten the customers, let me put it that way, up in arms to say that it is too expensive to afford. What then happens if we can't afford it? How else is it supposed to be funded? But bottom line is, there are two things that are happening in parallel. As Transnet, we've developed what we call the Joint Infrastructure External Partner Selection Process. This allows us to start working with the private sector on unsolicited bids. So anyone who has the capacity and the know-how and is interested in investing in our infrastructure, they can come to us, we talk to them, and we run it through the governance structures. At the same time, the DOT, Department of Transport, is in the process of establishing a private sector partnership unit. And we're quite clear in separating PPP from the private sector participation process, because the processes are different. One is slightly more longer than just the process that we're running, which we call the PSP. That's one part. So we're looking at potentially joint ventures. We have customers that are saying, on this particular line, we're willing to invest. We don't want to own the line, but we can then facilitate the capital required to upgrade the line. In other instances, we're looking at concessions. It could be an operating concession. It could be a maintenance concession. What we do know is that we are unable to carry the entire load on our own as Transnet, which is why we're looking up to the private sector. There's another initiative that we're working on, which is the establishment of a leaseco. We will be looking for a private partner, and the private partner, together with Transnet, will own a rolling stock from rolling stock assets from locomotives to wagons. The gentleman, I was astounded by that 130 odd wagons that will be required by 2030. It makes sense, because from our assessment, we think the North-South corridor on its own will need about 20 to 30,000 wagons. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're hoping that through this ring-fenced joint venture company, we will then enable railway authorities, private sector companies, whoever wants access on the line, to then tap into this the rolling stock. And the beauty about it, specifically for the North-South corridor, is that if you ring-fence rolling stock for the North-South corridor, you can run 1 million tons on that corridor in its current state. And it's the very much needed revenue that then will strengthen our balance sheets. There's another gentleman that said it's a quid pro quo. Without the cargo on the line, you don't have the revenue to then fix the lines. So that's some of the initiatives that we're looking at in the short to medium term. Thank you.
Merci, merci à vous.
Thank you very much. Yeah, those are very interesting ideas that should feed into our discussions. Unfortunately, we still have very little time. We've been told to comply with the time allocated for us. We'll continue with this table discussions, panel discussions. By you, Mr. Bikondi, in talking about technology and the data thereof, can you give us your opinion as to how the technology data could improve connectivity on the African continent and in the various regions concerned by the issue? Thank you very much, Madam. I think that Africa is lagging behind vis-à-vis technology. I think while we're still talking about transportation modes, traditional transportation modes, Europe, China, and the US are talking about hyperlinks, hyperloops. I think you know about this too. Hyperloops. This is artificial intelligence in the transport sector that will enable us to change things, to overhaul the transport system. But we in Africa, we are very way behind time. In our region, we resort to technology to boost the transport sector. Look, for instance, when a plane takes off from Abidjan to Addis Ababa, the plane is already announced at the Addis Ababa port, thanks to technology. But when a truck leaves at the port of Abidjan towards Lomé, we don't know at what level it is. We don't know where it is. So on the road, people are not expecting the truck because of the problems of technology. And if the truck were expected, normally people would start preparing where it will be parked. We'll know when the truck would arrive. Would even know when the truck would be offloaded. So we need efficient technology, but we don't have it. So a truck can leave here to go to Lomé, and sometimes it may take a month or two, and then you'll be told that the goods were missing or the cargo were missing, and then we can't find it. So that is the problem. So we're here to look for solutions, and and knowing that we are lagging behind on the African continent. What do you propose as a solution? Well, the solution that we are trying to implement in our region is, for instance, the declaration of goods that for which custom duties have to be paid must be included in the new information technology, and we need this. So when goods leave a port towards their country of destination, from the outset, well, the country of destination is already informed that such and such a truck is coming with such and such goods, thanks to technology. We also have in our Central Corridor region, we also have the electronic tracking system. Once a truck leaves a city, thanks to an application that we append to the vehicle, we track the movement of that vehicle, and we even see the driver that is inside the truck. Once he stops, we know why he's stopping. Once he's talking to the traffic police, and if they greet themselves in a particular way, as is often the case, we will be able to track them from the control room. For instance, we know that such and such a truck and truck driver stopped at this position, and that they are just greeting the traffic police. And it is thanks to the new technology information that we need in the transport system. We also need this in the data collection system. Probably we don't have it here, but I think one of the speakers talked about this. We need new information technology in gathering data, madam. If you don't have reliable data, you cannot take decisions. If you don't have reliable data, you cannot do your business properly. And today, where we want to go, madam, is that we are advocating for the fact that data collection is done using satellites. And the satellites are the new information technology for institutions, organizations that are working on this. We, as a corridor organizations, we commend them, but want that this is done very quickly, and especially ADB can also join the effort. That will be important. The SGR that is operating in my country, in Tanzania, from Dar es Salaam up to Morogoro, but you cannot operate an SGR without technology. Otherwise, there will be collisions. But you yourself, let me interrupt you. Sometimes, well, let me use your very example. It just suffices for a driver to disconnect some lines, and you won't be able to track him anymore. Well, there will be a solution for that. Well, when you govern by anticipation, to govern is to look ahead. And I did law, and we've understood that the more states organize themselves to arrest criminals, the more criminals organize themselves in order to circumvent the state. So, and that is similarly, we're trying to look at how people that are working in the industry will also be trying to avoid, detection. So we like in a cat and mouse, game. But we do appreciate the efforts of technology, and we're encouraging the ADB to help us to think along these lines. Today, we're talking about SGR, but when shall we be talking about hyperloops like in Europe? So we really want that the new technology, the development of new technology be accelerated in the transport system, which will ensure good connectivity in Africa. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've seen you, Honorable Minister Tukundani. I saw you nodding your head. Probably you want to make some comments to what he's just said, especially as concerns the new technology that will enable us to solve the problems that have been raised during this panel discussion.
Madam, I think he started it very well, and when you don't have a basic infrastructure, and they were talking of going virtual, how can someone move a container virtually? I don't think that can work. And so in the interest of time, let us fix basic things, and in the meantime, technology is there. We don't need to invent the wheel. We'll adopt the best practices. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We don't have much time. We've come to the end of this panel. I will want to propose that each of you should get ready to have some discussions with us in the next few minutes. But we want to thank all of you. Honorable Minister, just take 1 minute, if you don't mind it. What are your expectations as far as this forum is concerned? The issues you've heard, the development of transport in Africa, the type of collaboration that you expect. Thank you very much. First, I think in addition to everything that I was saying, should be compiled for the next edition. Because very often we have forums like this, we say a lot of things, and by the time we meet the next time, we don't have this at the back of our minds. And it is also important that through the African Union and the regional institutions, that they be well developed, that they need a lot of energy to work in a harmonized manner to develop the regions so that there's compatibility in everything that will be done. For example, development of our areas in a harmonious manner. And I'm certain that with technology, this can happen because the technology is available. The world today is open to everyone. The technology is there. And we need to create the infrastructure for that. We need to train people, train staff, so that all of these applications, so that the available technology is fully understood and that Africans understand it and that we can adapt this to our realities so that we can boost development. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Eric Katengbewa, you have the floor. Please, you have 1 minute to tell us what you think the prospects for this forum are, as well as what you think the connectivity in Africa should be, particularly look at all the ongoing projects.
First thing I can do is a call to the collaboration and partnership. We have enumerated these flagship projects. These are priority projects adopted by the ministers of transport at the African Union level. So my call is for the member states and also regional economic communities to work together in terms of implementing these initiatives. The minister has just said it. We need to establish this framework of collaboration. For example, we have a Green Ports Forum, which brings together all port authorities in Africa to discuss these initiatives. The second point is that transport cannot work without the support of the other sectors, especially ICT, innovations, and energy. So we need to look at innovative solutions in terms of bringing ICT into the transport solutions. And also we need to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts. And when we are prioritizing our projects, when we are talking to our ministers and policymakers, let us go together with the other sectors to have one voice into this. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous. Merci à vous.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zulikanis, you have the floor. Tell us what your expectations are as far as this, the exchange of views with partners that is concerned.
Thank you so much. It's a job well done for bringing us all together, and I agree, we don't want to create a talk shop. One, I'd like to say is that Transnet is not a big brother. We're open for business, we're open for collaboration and partnership. The second one is, I know data is, it sounds like a very difficult and expensive thing to do, but it's an absolute must, irrespective of the state of our infrastructure. Otherwise, it will be a lost opportunity. I think we'll be missing an opportunity to use that data to make informed decisions. The third one is, and I'm coming back next year just for this one, Mr. Kino, I need a political champion for the North-South corridor. We know what needs to be done. You've got the most intelligent people in that forum. There is just no traction. So on our own, we're unable to do it. I think the politicians need to get us into a room and we talk about how to make this thing work. There are big things. There's the infrastructure. There are also equally small things that can offset what needs to happen on that corridor. Thank you.
Merci à vous. Je donne la parole à votre voisin.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to a neighbor. Thank you very much, Madame Angèle. What we as a corridor would like to have, that's the Corridor Management Authority, is that one transport infrastructure that's interconnected. Rail, ports, airports, and so on. This is what we want. Now, with regard to the organizers, I have two things to say. Because we're dealing here with the AfDB, and when we talk about the AfDB, it's not football. We're not even here to discuss football. We're here to plead for Africa to have resources to construct transport infrastructure. So I will want the Vice President here to know, is that we want to have more money. Please help our countries to have more resources, more money to construct or to build transport infrastructure. We need it. We know you're doing quite a lot, but still not enough. And I'm speaking as a member of the Corridor Management Authority. And here we're appealing to you, as I said, please, AfDB, kindly transmit this information. We don't want to continue to be a transport corridor for mineral resources from Africa to other regions. No, we want to move on. We want to be corridors where we can process our natural resources in Africa to give more value, to create jobs for our youth, so that our youth will no longer be drowning in the oceans because they want to go abroad. And this is very important. So for us, Corridor Management Authority, we want resources in these corridors. Please help us and find out whether the investment contributes to, in fact, doing exactly what we're doing in the past. No, I think we are probably not going the right direction. But if you give us the resources in corridors that are transforming themselves, which want to move on to viable economics, adding the green component, so that this is done by Africans with the assistance of others, such that our brains will stay in Africa instead of going abroad and being drowned somewhere in the oceans. This is what I want to tell the AfDB. Thank you. I think what you said is well understood. Mr. Minister Kundane, you have the last word.
Madam, my expectation from this forum is clear. I have no doubt that with the African Development Bank, we walk the talk. I did emphasize on the need to have long-term perspectives as we provide the answers to short-term needs. These big projects like railways and the others, they do need to be championed. And we have got from my colleagues here, Central Corridor, the North-South Corridor, and other corridors across the continent. These are candidate projects to demonstrate in the next forum that we indeed walked the talk. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous, Monsieur le
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think today we've heard quite a lot of pleas, we've heard a lot of statements, we've heard pledges, we've heard people talk about collaboration with people who are here. You'll have an opportunity to start doing this during the first breakout session. We will take 15 minutes break. We'll come back, and we hope that you'll join the second panel with my colleague, Norifo Chavalala. And I would like to ask you to kindly stand up so that we can take a group photograph. I want to thank all the speakers and who have shared with us their experiences. Thank you very much.